Pretty much.
Right.
I guess history has already been established. We know we have great messages from both of our speakers tonight. You might as well turn the green light on because I might as well start now. But just some small things. My name is Dillon McKenzie, hailing from you and Lady McKenzie, from the great Andrus and Exuma. Now they say the McKenzies come from Cat Island, but they were so dumb they were trying to go to Nassau and they ended up in Exuma. I don't believe that. But they come from it, and they end up in Cat Island. So like, knows the difference to that. Yeah, growing up, my introduction into this thing called culture, into this thing called, and I represent more Reagan Street than anything else, but my introduction into this comes from, I gotta give you a little back history because I came up in a Christian home. In my house, there was only the Herald's Sunday party. Yeah, we all know. Sunday party. Herald's is the same dry bones. I know I can say that. So I was not introduced to Bahamian music. Now we did have one particular album that was there my dad bought, and it was Eddie Menace. So the first connection that I ever had to anything cultural was through listening to Eddie Menace music, and the only time I could listen to that was when my parents go to church. So, you know, there were times, I remember my other connection where I had a godmother and she used to sneak me out the house, take me by her so I could listen. I used to ask if she had blues records, and that's the only way that I could hear these other different types of music. So for me, my introduction would have been through the songs of Eddie Menace, and then finding out later on, reading through the credits, that Ronnie Butler had played a pivotal role in these albums as well. So that was my part of my introduction, and then I heard the Burma Road stuff growing up, getting older. Another part of knowing your history and culture, my dad, the people at McKenzie, I remember every summer with school out 12 o'clock, I on one wooden boat and I go into the island. Every summer, every single summer I spent on the island, and that's where I really got an appreciation for who we are as a people. No current, you got your sheep running around, chilling, you go, you know, kind of thing like that. Yeah, you know that kind of way. So that was when I really got that experience, and that's to this day, that's what I really appreciate about my father and giving me that opportunity to have that experience. Not very many of us or our children nowadays get that opportunity, and that is very sad.
Yes.
That is extremely sad. We have now aligned ourselves with the various media houses and all of these other things that distract our children, that take us away from what it is that we are as a people. I always allude to the fact that when we look at other cultures, take Jamaicans for an example, we have become so, we are so lucky until we miss the mark as Bahamians. Yes. We are so lucky until we miss the mark. I mean, we have become so westernized and so used to you know, the Americas and the Europes and stuff. We don't really appreciate what it is to be a Bahamian. I don't think most of us really know what it is. You know, to really be a Bahamian and to appreciate being a Bahamian. The Jamaicans, we look at let's just take an example. When you look at ackee and saltfish, we would make ackee and saltfish. Codfish, sorry, ackee and codfish. We would make that a delicacy over here. I mean, like, who's go for this ackee? You don't go for ackee and codfish?
No, sir.
Yes.
What?
So I could write these poisons, so stay away from it.
So, for something that is poisonous if it's not cooked properly,
Yes.
right? That meant that plenty Jamaicans back in those days, they going through a lot to really find out what's the best preparation for that.
Exactly.
But we take it as a delicacy here, but not realizing that back in Jamaica, those persons had these ackee trees in the back of their yard, and they used to have to get these fish because they didn't have these fridge, so they used to have to get the canned stuff, or they used to have to store it up. But we take it as a delicacy. We don't appreciate. We take other person's culture or other person's their way of life, and we look at it to say, wow, this is such a great thing. My colleague here alluded to the pants down. You know, and we look at a Jamaican, and we would look at a Jamaican brother, and he walk out there cool, and we saying, oh man, that drove he off the chain. But we don't realize that in that country, that's probably a hand-me-down from the bigger brother to the little brother. Our parents could afford to buy his clothes. These are a lot of things that we don't realize that are going on in other cultures, but they're making the best out of what they have. we're not doing the same. Not here in this culture, not here in this country. Not knocking them. One good thing that has done for the other cultures, and it's the same for the Haitian community as well, and it's the same for most of our Caribbean brothers and sisters. One thing that does for them is to allow them to attach themselves to the one thing that they can always take with them, which is their culture, which is their sound, their crafts, their food, everything that they have. That's their survival mechanism, and they take that everywhere they go. Bahamians, we don't do the same thing. We don't do, as soon as we get to the airport, our slide changes. We ain't even hit the plane yet. We ain't hit the plane yet. You know? We only get to the airport. Taxi just drop you off. I'm finna go in the airport. You know? So those are some of the things that we, just looking at it from the outside in, because it has an effect on Bahamian music. It has an effect on our culture. It's almost as if we take things that are foreign to make them better for us. And I know everybody, we have that complaint all the time. We say that foreign, we think that people say foreign is better all the time, but that is proven. That is proven. I do respect our Caribbean counterparts, our Caribbean brothers and sisters, for their appreciation for culture. And I wish that we as Bahamians would have that same desire, that same passion for our culture. There are some stories that I can give you. One in particular, I was on Market Street, and we had this little breaking screen thing going on. We had a 5-gallon bucket. We had a little saw, and we doing some of that singing. We drinking some Sky Juice. We breaking the saw. So this lady came in and she said, "No, you're doing it the wrong way." I said, "How should we do it?" She says, "No, we did like this." Boom, 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 boom. And she said, when she started singing, "Some glad morning." So she went back. She brought her thing to us, and she said, "This is how you were supposed to do it." Now, mind you, we were doing the Reagan Straight thing. It just shows the influence that these persons have, or the cultures have on us as Bahamians, and we're not grasping. Let's look into. Let me get back into myself in terms of my music. Listening to Eddie Menace and Ronnie Butler, there was a gap in music at some point in time, because the last song that would have been before I really started hearing the song that I'm going to call next would have been probably around Burma Road era. There was a gap. I know my colleague Mr. Money was doing song, but there was a gap in terms of the New Age. The New Age, I would give the New Age music that was coming about to a colleague of mine by the name of Kirkland Bodie. KB started out with, I don't know if you all remember, Just Cause She Fat. And this is for me personally, in my area. When you would have heard songs like Just Cause She Fat, it was that reverberation or that renewing of the Bahamian sound. Then you would have heard persons like the Gino D's, The Guy Look Good. Gino D, you would have heard Funky D would have been out, no Funky D. And other artists that have been there, Sweet Emily, would have been some music. And I think that was more or less, that was the resurgence of this Bahamian thing, this new Bahamian sound. That is where it came in for me. I am a producer, I am a writer, I am a studio owner. Before I met this other person I'm going to talk about, before I met him, I was doing R&B music. I loved R&B music, and that's all I could do. I sang slow tunes, I got everybody was doing slow music, and they came into the studio, and that's all I was doing. Then one day, there was this guy that came in there, had braids in his hair down to his hip. And I said to myself, "No, this freak is man." And it turned out to be Aristor. Aristor actually come and he was touring with KB. Yeah, he was touring with KB at the time, and he came in and he said, "I have something, I have an idea that I need you to check out and see if you like this idea." So I listened to what he had, and then we started collaborating on some music, and that was the beginning of me producing Bahamian music, and we went on from there with Gino D, with Inagua and all of that. The first song I would have done, I don't know if you remember, Stealing Love. So that was the introduction into it. That was the introduction to it. Yeah, that was the introduction into me producing Bahamian music. What happened though, when I started producing the Bahamian music, then all of those persons that I was doing the R&B music for stopped coming. Because they said, we ain't no man, you switch, yeah, that kind of thing what you're doing, we ain't into that. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's been a struggle.
Yeah.
There's been a struggle for me personally, and for many of the artists feel the same way. I mean, for us who do this rake and scrape thing, it's not an easy job that we're on right now. But we take it because of our passion. Because of our passion and because of the desire, me personally and a lot of us, to see Bahamian music, to see the rake and scrape, to see our cultural sound get out there, to get out to international level and to get some recognition. We find ourselves finding any other way to get this sound that we're thinking that we want to get it. And we find any other way that we would want to water it down, or any way to get it on the international market. My thing is, I believe it has to. I know the lyric because we do folk music. I know the lyric has to develop. I know the lyric has to change. I know the music has to change a bit for it to be palatable for international sound. But I don't think, I'm telling you, from me, there is no sound. There is no sound in the world that is better than the sound that the Bahamas has, and that's really true. It just has to be, you just have to put it in, contain it and package it properly. So that is somewhat I see my brothers, and we have a lot of persons that are out there trying to promote and to push this Bahamian thing, and that's what I encourage. There is a fight. There is a fight in terms of us with music being played on the radio for radio play. We find ourselves battling. At one point in time, when I first started the radio, we were battling, rake and scrape was battling reggae.
Yeah.
Then it moved over and we started battling rap music. Now we find ourselves battling soca music.
Wow.
Every time it's always a war, and there's always different genres coming to eat up. And every time the Bahamian music starts to take this rise, there's something else that always comes. So we need to band together. We need to look out and be conscious of it, because that is really killing us. Even in terms of the business of it, in collecting royalties. Royalties 2 years ago for me is 50% less than it used to be, because now the radio stations play more. So we have to realize that other cultures are benefiting of the country. Our money is going out of this country. So we need to be more conscious of some of the stuff that is going on and try to help. I know there was a moratorium, and I don't know, maybe my colleague could speak to it. There was a moratorium in Jamaica at one particular point in time for music to be played, and there was a percentage of reggae music that would have to be played. And I think they did it in Trinidad as well. They're still doing it in Trinidad. And so these are things that we need to look at. And these are things that we need to address to try to assist in the Bahamians benefiting. The radio play is extremely important. Not only that, too, in terms of the sound now, because it would seem that most of the Bahamian music is not successful. Most producers or songwriters nowadays in the country gravitate to producing other music. And so we need to fix that as well. I usually put, let me give you an example of what I would say Bahamian music is. Foundation. We build a foundation. Bahamian music is the basic foundation. Rake and scrape is, we call it goat skin drum, the saw. Sometimes people use the concertina. The guitar is very strong as well. If we use those as our fundamental, our basics, we can build anything on top of it as long as it does not overpower. It's almost as if you're baking a cake. If you're making a carrot cake, you have the carrots, you have the different ingredients. Of course, those are the ingredients to make carrot cake. If you add anything and it overpowers the taste, or it overpowers that cake or the mixture, then you spoil it. So if you overpower the cinnamon. Then you spoil it. You see? So it's the same thing for Bahamian music. It's the same thing of how we build it. If we need to make sure maintain our structure to how we start off. And then I don't have a problem with everybody adding stuff to it, but definitely our sound has to be detected. It has to be strong enough so that when we put it out there to the world, people can appreciate it, they can understand. I have an example with one time I did a song that had rake and scrape and reggae with it. I mixed the song. There was a Jamaican artist that came in by the name of Jackie. Anybody know Jackie? Yeah. Jackie came in. I was doing a dub plate for a radio station. He was supposed to be there for 5 minutes. I took my voice off the song, opened the track. He came inside the studio and he said, "Open the mic, I have an idea." He came in there and he spent 5 hours to to this track that had reggae and it had rake and scrape. We playing it back to him and he says, "What's that? Stop the music. What's that?" I'm like, "What you mean, what's that?" He said, "What is that? Stop it. Stop the music. Play this thing, play it." He said, "What's that?" I say, "Man, that's rake and scrape." He said, "Man, look here, that is the sound. That's awesome." That particular song went on to win the reggae guys have what you call the clashes. Yeah. That song went on to win the clash for the largest company, the largest clashing company. They won. Wow. Not only that song, off that rhythm itself, there was a guy, G. Cole. He did a song called Ocho Rios. I got a call from him. He says that the Jamaican government want to use that particular song to represent Ocho Rios for Jamaica. Okay. Wow. Not only that, there was an African gentleman that released a song in Africa. His song was #1. What I'm getting at is to solidify my point about Bahamian music. We are in the incubation stage. We're still trying to get out there. We need the power. We need your support. We need to get out there, and we need the consciousness for everybody to know that Bahamian music. We're here, we're vibrant, and we're alive. Thank you very much, ladies.